the NFL tampering period started today, and it is crazy the amount of signings that have happened. My phone has been ringing and ringing and ringing, notification after notification after notification. It has been absolutely wild, and I figured I'd do a YouTube video just really quick to give my thoughts on some of the more topical signings. So here it is right here. I gave every signing that I went through 12. I gave every one of them a grade 1 through 10. And yes, I included decimals. I didn't give any of them a 1. I didn't give any of them a 10, though. I tried to be fair. I tried not to overreact at all. Feel free to comment what you agree with, what you disagree with. And I'll see you all after the video. I'm really proud of how it turned out. The first one I want to go over is Christian Wilkins getting a 4-year, $110 million contract from the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, of course, have Max Crosby. Great defensive end, but they really need to buff up that interior. Max Crosby can defend the run very well by himself. However, if you want to be able to beat some of the better teams in the AFC, you got to be able to have more than one guy shut down the run, have more than one guy on the line of scrimmage that can make plays on ball carriers or even on quarterbacks. We already know one of Antonio Pierce's top priorities are beating Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think Christian Wilkins is the best pass rusher on earth, but he will really help minimize the impact that Pacheco will have in those matchups. And I also think Max Crosby is just going to look a lot better because Wilkins is sharing the field with him. I also think this Raiders defense is a much better unit than they're getting credit for. I think last year they didn't really have much time to adjust to some coaching changes, yet they were still really, really impressive once Antonio Pierce took over. Guys like Robert Spillane. Of course, Max Crosby we know is great. Marcus Epps, I thought, had a solid season. There were some corners, Nate Hobbs, Jones. There were guys there that were really impressive. And now bringing in more star power to complement the role players like Robert Spillane, I think it's only going to end positively. This Raiders defense might take a jump to be one of the best in football. Okay, I would not be surprised, and guys like Wilkins are going to be a key part of that. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is Gabe Davis, former Buffalo Bill, signing a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars have their slot receiver who's a reliable target, great route runner, going to get separation across the middle. They have that guy. And I think what they were looking for with Calvin Ridley was more of a big play threat through the air. Calvin Ridley was fine, but he didn't do precisely what they wanted him to. I think Gabe Davis, while being a less complete receiver, I think he's more of what they're looking for. And he's cheaper, right? We don't know how much Calvin Ridley is going to get paid yet, but I think it is going to be a lot of money. Gabe Davis is a cheaper alternative that, again, doesn't have as well-rounded of a skill set, but he still does have the skill set that they're looking for. Gabe Davis is going to be their big play threat. He's going to be their deep threat, and I think he's going to be successful in doing so. He's not going to be a guy that you see going out there and getting 9 catches, 10 catches in a game. He's not going to do that. But he could have 4 catches and 150 yards. Right? Like, he's one of those guys that'll really just make big play after big play after big play. He's not going to be a consistent option for Jacksonville, but he's going to play his role, and that role is going to be crucial in the bigger games, in the playoffs. Guys like Gabe Davis are really important for football teams. It's only $13 million per year for him. I feel like that's around the right price range for a guy like him. He's a wide receiver too. He is not a 1. No one's expecting him to be a 1, not even Jacksonville. That's why I got this paycheck. I like him. I think he's going to play the role they want him to play, but it's not some absolute game-changing deal right here. Okay, 7.8 for Gabe Davis signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this is the first one where I'm really negative. This is my lowest graded signing on this entire list. I'm just going to tell you that right now because normally I am more positive. I feel like a lot of today's signings were very, very positive. This one, I don't like. It was the first one, and I feel like they might have rushed it a little bit because that's an overpay. That right there is an overpay. They're paying DeAndre Swift, former Philadelphia Eagle, $8 million per year. I think the Bears already have backs. Even prior to this hiring, I liked their backfield. I don't think they were even trying to bring in like some specialized third down guy, because if they did, first off, why is that your first move? Second off, why are you paying a specialized third down guy $8 million per year? My biggest problem with this is that I think the Bears are expecting him to be a 3-down back. And DeAndre Swift can't play that role. Not in the NFL. It is very, very clear. That's why he got bounced from Detroit. That's why Philly didn't want to re-sign him and pay him the bank, right? And that's why Chicago really made a mistake in bringing him onto the team, at least at that price tag, right? $8 million per year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a running back. That's what you pay a 3-down guy. And DeAndre Swift cannot play that role. He's a nice role player. He is. He's a nice role player. He can catch balls out of the backfield. He can make plays after the catch. Absolutely. On third downs, I really like him being on the team. But you could also get another guy like that in round 5. In round 6 even. I mean, guys like that are available all the time later on in the draft. They're available in free agency at a cheaper price tag. What is DeAndre Swift going to bring to you that some of these other backs, that Nyheim Hines isn't going to bring to you, right? What is DeAndre Swift going to bring to you that makes him any different than the other third down backs in the league? He's going to bring a heavier price tag, a larger cap hit. That's what he's going to bring. But besides that, how is he going to benefit you? He isn't going to benefit you. That's exactly why. DeAndre Swift, I like him as a role player, but I do not like him at $8 million per year right here. I think the Bears saw the amount of money that they have and were just like, okay, we can just throw money wherever we want. And that's a mistake. This could very likely hurt them down the road. I don't like this one. Not one bit. Kirk Cousins signing with the Falcons. Now we're on a lot more of a positive note, as you could tell by the grade right here. I truly do think the Falcons are in a position where they could be really competitive. I absolutely do. The defense was pretty impressive last year. I think it was a solid unit. Guys like Jesse Bates really showed us something. But that offense, they have the pieces. They have Kyle Pitts. They have Drake London. They have Bijan Robinson. They got guys on the offensive line. But they needed someone to call the shots. Okay? Enough with this Marcus Mariota. Enough with this Desmond Ridder. Let's get a veteran that has proven himself to be a starting caliber quarterback. Kirk Cousins is coming off an injury, but before that injury, it was looking like he was going to have a career year. Okay? And that was in a offense under Kevin O'Connell that is very similar to the offense he's going to be running under Zach Robinson. Very similar. Both of them are from the McVay tree. Offensive-minded guys. I think the offense is built to be utilized by someone like Kirk Cousins. I think someone like Kirk Cousins is going to do a very good job executing that offense and then giving him the weapons that he has. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. It's going to work great. It's going to be truly phenomenal, if you ask me. I think it's going to work really, really well. I think the Falcons are going to be very competitive, and this signing is why. Okay, quarterbacks like Kirk aren't supposed to be on the market, but he was, and the Falcons took advantage, giving him a 4-year, $180 million deal right here. I give it a 9.1. I love the move. The only slight concern I have is It's not like they're getting some extremely cheap deal, right? Kirk Cousins is getting paid about what he deserves, so it's not like it's some, fleece job, okay? They're paying him the proper amount of money, so that's one. But then the other thing that concerns me is he is coming off an injury. That's a little bit frightening, but he's not exactly a running quarterback, okay? I mean, that doesn't all of a sudden make it completely fine. That doesn't all of a sudden make it so you're not even remotely worried about the fact he's coming off an injury. But his style of play isn't extremely dependent on his mobility, okay? So I think Kirk Cousins is going to do a really good job in Atlanta. I think they have the pieces around him, and I think Atlanta overall is going to be a great team because they have their quarterback in place. Now, this one, again, I know I'm back to being negative here, and some people might like this one a lot more than I do. But the fact is, and you'll see more of this later on, we already saw a little bit of it with the DeAndre Swift signing. I'm not big on paying running backs. I am not. That's made clear by this. That's made clear by the DeAndre Swift signing. I think the only position that a team can be in where I would understand going for a running back is when you have all the other pieces in place. I don't think Philly has that. I think Philly might think they have that, but I don't think Philly really has that. The defense was really bad last year, and yes, you brought in a new defensive coordinator that might fix all the issues, but I don't really know. The cornerbacks are old. I don't love that D-back room. I really don't. They got some young, promising guys on the defensive front, but that doesn't always guarantee success. They might want to get some guys, some veterans in there, as opposed to bringing in a running back. I also think their offensive line is losing players, okay? And it's old. It is an old offensive line, but they're losing guys. They are. Jason Kelce is gone, all right? I didn't like what I've seen from Cam Jurgens so far last year. I wasn't a big fan of his game. Right now, the big spots they have to replace are center and right guard. Again, maybe they still like Cam Jurgens. It seems that way. But right guard is still a spot I don't exactly love. But still, overall, they have guys in every other spot that they like. But they are getting old. Okay, maybe you want to invest in some younger guys. So it might be a smart idea. At least that's my opinion. I also think, again, that defensive side of the ball is more of my concern. But even if they were a very complete team, first off, that's a lot of money for a running back right there. 3 years, $37.75 million. Second off, Saquon has an injury history. Okay, that's something to factor in here. His injury history is very concerning, especially when you consider the average lifespan of running backs nowadays. I think Philly probably gets one good year of production from Saquon, and then after that, it's only downhill. I really do feel that way. It already seems to be downhill for Saquon. I still think he's a great player, absolutely a top 5, top 7 running back, but I don't think he's going to be this game breaker, true asset to your team that they're paying him like he is. Okay, I truly don't. Again, if Saquon can look like he did his rookie year, his second year, when he was a really high caliber player, then okay, I love this. But the fact is, running backs, they only decline. They only decline. Saquon is around that age where you start to get worried, and even before this, he had an injury history. That's why I don't love this hiring. Although, again, 7.4 is not a bad grade. Something you'll notice, I had them kind of color-coded. Green means I like it, love it, it's good. Yellow is where I'm like, meh. Okay. This one, I'm a little bit meh. Okay. 7.5 and under, meh. But it's really close to being a good grade. And the reason why is because what if those guys that they drafted in the defensive front hit? Okay. What if the guys in the secondary are playing well? Then all of a sudden they have that very complete team, and they have every right to bring in a luxury player at a luxury position like running back, like Saquon Barkley. So with me, it's more of, I understand the process. The process is they have faith in guys like Nakobe Dean, in guys like Nolan Smith, in guys like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Okay. They have faith in those guys. They think the guys on the offensive line can stay around a little while longer. Sure. Then they're a very complete team, and paying a running back makes a lot of sense for them. However, I don't feel that way. That's why I give it a 7.4. But there's absolutely a way that this offense and defense just look better than I expect. It's a way more complete team than I think it is. That's very possible. And in that situation, paying Saquon Barkley is going to do a lot for them. So my grade for this move is kind of dependent on where the team is. It could be in a much better place than I'm giving it credit for, and in that case, I'll give this a 8.5, 8.7, right? But it's also very possible that guys like Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, the guys on the defensive front aren't that great. The guys in the secondary aren't overly good anymore. You know, they're old. And in that situation, they're going to regret paying him, and this is going to go down in history as a move that Philly regrets. So that's where I stand on this, and that's how it normally is with running backs. I don't hate this move. I don't love it. I'm more like, you know. But it's closer to me liking it than it is to me disliking it. Because, like I said earlier, these guys that Philly have that I see as question marks might not be question marks. And in that case, paying Saquon makes a lot of sense. Now, Jonathan Grenard, Houston Texans edge rusher. This was a guy who was really, really impressive last year out of nowhere. Not many people expected him to have the type of season that he did, complimentary to Will Anderson. And, of course, he did it at the right time on a contract year, and the Texans let him walk in free agency. But the Vikings are a team that really needs edge rushers, okay? Hence why they paid him $76 million over 4 years. A deal that I don't think is too bad. But you have to keep in mind, Jonathan Grenard only had one good year. If he drops off, this move is really going to kill them. Really going to kill them. He was a complimentary edge rusher. He was. He was complimentary to Will Anderson. He wasn't the main guy. He wasn't getting many double teams. It's going to be different in Minnesota. It's going to be a very different story. Will he still be able to produce? I don't know. But looking at his film, he's a very talented player. He does the right stuff. He has an arsenal of moves that work very well. So I do have confidence that this will work out for the Vikings, but there's definitely a risk factor here. There definitely is. That's why I don't have an absurdly great grade here, but I do still like the move. I do. It's an important position for the Vikings. A good player, seemingly, but there are definitely some red flags here. Now, I know this move right here seems very, very minor to other people because it seems a lot like just a veteran for them to bring in to sit the bench while their rookie quarterback goes out there and really impresses people. Or maybe he starts a game or two or three, but not really much more than that. He's just going to get replaced by a rookie. But I truly don't think that the Patriots are going to take a rookie quarterback. Maybe I'm completely insane, but I think Brissett right here is going to be their starting quarterback this year. I really do. I really do. I don't think he's going to do some amazing job. I think he's going to be okay, though. I mean, he was impressive this year. He was impressive in his year with Cleveland. Coming in when Deshaun Watson was suspended, he was impressive. What's also important to keep in mind is Andrew Van Pelt worked with Jacoby Brissett. Van Pelt, by the way, is the offensive coordinator on the Patriots. He worked with Brissett when he had that impressive year with the Cleveland Browns. And I think that gives Van Pelt confidence that he could put Brissett in and have a decent amount of success, relatively decent amount of success on the offensive side of the ball with him out there with Marvin Harrison Jr. catching passes. Okay? He doesn't want to force himself to take the third best quarterback. Okay? I don't think the Patriots want to force themselves to do that. So they're going to use Jacoby Brissett as a bridge guy and then take a rookie quarterback next year and then have them throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay? This is a draft class that is stacked at wide receiver. It's a draft class that is stacked at O-line. Patriots want to take advantage of that. I think starting Brissett this year allows them to do that. So my grade right here is mainly based off the thought process, but I also do think Brissett is a good player. I do. I think Brissett is much better than he gets respect for. I think he's in this tier of backups that are top 32 quarterbacks. Okay? They don't get the praise because they're not as appealing, they're not as young, but I think guys like Brissett, Andy Dalton are much better than they get credit for. Much better than they get credit for. And I think he's going to go out there with the Patriots, win a couple of games, and put butts in seats. Okay, I think people are going to want to come to Patriots games because the Patriots are going to be a team that can upset people every now and then. Brissett being a big reason why. That's how I feel. I gave this a 7.7 because, like I said, I like the thought process. I like the fact that they're not forcing themselves to take a quarterback, or at least I think that's their thought process. I really feel sold that that is their thought process. I like the idea of them just taking a bridge guy, using this year as kind of a build the structure year, and then you take the rookie quarterback next year. That is the main reason I'm giving it the grade, because I like the thought process with how they're approaching the rebuild, and I think this contract that they gave Brissett is evidence of that. Now the Rams, they have the best interior offensive line in football with this move. There's no doubt about it. Jonah Jackson was a stud for that Lions offensive line. 3 years, $51 million. I give it an 8.5. They're going to have an interior offensive line of Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, and Jonah Jackson. Avila is going to play center, I imagine. I mean, he has experience at that spot at TCU. So that's what I'm expecting here. I really, really like just how dominant that interior offensive line is going to be. I think Williams is going to have a remarkable year running behind those guys on inside zone. I think it's going to be amazing to watch. The Rams offense is going to make some noise, dude. It's going to make some noise. I don't think the defense is stacked. It's a capable unit. Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson on the offensive line. Then you have Matthew Stafford throwing a Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. And then, of course, you have one of the best running backs in football in the backfield. This offense is going to light up scoreboards. And part of it is going to be guys like Jonah Jackson just absolutely decimating guys. Absolutely laying guys out. This is a really high caliber guard, really high caliber offensive player. And I don't think this is insane value because, 3 years, $51 million, it's still a lot, but he's worth the money. So I am not going to talk poorly on this one. I like the move. I think it's a player that the Rams want to add. They want to increase the effectiveness of that run game, especially as Stafford gets older. Bringing in guys like Jackson on the interior offensive line really allow you to do that. I'm a big fan of that move. I'm not a big fan of this one, though. We talked about it earlier. I am not one for the paying of running backs. Okay, and this one is $12 million per year. 4 years, $48 million. 4-year deal, what are we doing? Come on, 4-year deal, I don't like that. I am not a fan of that. They already had a running back in Aaron Jones, and I don't think Aaron Jones was better than Josh Jacobs or anything. I give them credit for trying to improve, but, man, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Is it worth the extra money? I don't think so, personally. I really don't. Aaron Jones was very, very good for them in the playoffs, and I know it's better to be a year early than a year late, but it doesn't seem like you're exactly a year early on Josh Jacobs either. It seems like you're buying Josh Jacobs after a season where, you know what, he might have had some impressive numbers, a little bit. His numbers weren't bad, but he was dealing with injury last year. And Aaron Jones, he was also dealing with injury. Okay, so you're getting rid of an injury-prone running back for an injury-prone running back. Or a running back with an injury history, a recent injury history, for another running back with a recent injury history. The difference was, though, Aaron Jones' contract was going to run out soon. So, you know what? If Aaron Jones continued to get hurt, you could just move on without any harm. But now, instead, they moved on to another running back that could very well be a similar situation. Josh Jacobs is a good player. I'm not going to doubt that. Again, I don't hate this. See how it's yellow? See how it is a 6.7 as opposed to the, what was it, a 3.8 that I gave DeAndre Swift? I don't hate this move, okay? For me, it's just like, I don't love it. I don't hate it because, on one hand, Josh Jacobs is a very good player. The offense is probably going to reap benefits of having a great running back in the backfield like Josh Jacobs this year. But down the line, you signed a 4-year deal. Down the line, this can really hurt them. It absolutely can. Down the line, they could be paying a player that they're just searching for the replacement of. They could absolutely. Absolutely. And they didn't have to do this. They didn't have a weak spot at running back. They chose to move on from their guy who was already doing a good job. And why? So you can move on to another guy who's aging, another guy who might only have one more year in him. I don't love it. I really don't love paying running backs. I went over this. I don't love paying running backs, especially when your team isn't overly complete. And that's one of the big differences between this one and the Saquon contract. First off, this contract is a year longer, so that's part of my concern. And then the other thing is the Eagles, there's at least a thought process behind them being a complete football team. The Packers, they seem to be a very good football team. Would I say they're complete? No. In fact, they just got rid of their franchise left tackle. Now they need to bring in someone else. Okay. They defensively don't seem to have an overwhelming amount of guys, you know? They have high caliber players, but they don't have these, oh man, we got to watch out for that guy on the defensive side of the ball. The only guy that I feel that way about is Jair Alexander. And Rashawn Gary can make plays, but I want to see more of those, big playmakers for them, right? We're going to talk about someone later on here who would have costed about the same. He's on the defensive side of the ball. He plays the off-ball linebacker spot. Would have really helped replace Devondre Campbell. Yet instead they wanted to pay a running back when they already had their guy. Their guy, again, might have been falling off soon, but I don't feel any differently about Josh Jacobs. I really don't. I think that Josh Jacobs is at that age where you start to get worried about having him on your team, and I would especially be worried if I just signed him to a 4-year-long contract. I'm not a fan of it. And the Packers made another big move during the offseason. The Packers made another big move during the day. Bring in Xavier McKinney. 4 years, $68 million. I'm really worried some people are going to think that I'm a Green Bay Packers hater. I am not. Again, this isn't a bad move in my opinion. I'm just And because, in my opinion, I think that McKinney, he's good. He's definitely good. He is not worth elite safety money, and they paid him elite safety money. 4 years, $68 million. That is $17 million per year. He isn't worth that money. He is not worth that money. Okay, he can play a lot of different roles. He's a versatile player. There's no doubts about that. However, he doesn't play any of those roles at an elite level. So why are we paying him elite safety money? Okay, I don't understand that. $17 million is not the type of money that you pay a player that is good, but he's not overly great at anything specific. It's nice that he has that versatility, but do we even think Green Bay is going to use him like that? I mean, they have a new defensive coordinator, so maybe. But I don't I don't think that McKinney is one of those guys that are so rare that you have to pay him 17 million. I don't. I think he's a good player. He's not 17 million good. And for me that's all this comes down to, right? They needed a safety. Yes, absolutely. Okay. But that doesn't mean you got to overpay to get the top guy. That's not what that means at all. Now, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe McKinney can go out there and really impress me. I gave it a 6.5. That's not bad. Yet again, it's in the yellow. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not saying it's too good. I think it's an overpay for a player that fills a need for them. I just don't think he's worth that kind of money. That's really all this comes down to. So I mentioned earlier that the Packers maybe should have entertained the idea of bringing in a certain defender instead of the running back they brought in. Frankie Louvu was that certain defender. Louvu is one of the more underrated players in all of football. Good in coverage, good blitzer, great at making tackles. I mean, he does everything you want an off-ball linebacker to be able to do. And he's very versatile in terms of how you could use him, much like McKinney. But the thing is, for whatever reason, off-ball linebackers are severely undervalued in the current NFL. And because of that, you could get a player that could do a lot of impressive stuff at a high level for only $12 million per year. Frankie Louvu right here is an example of that. The Commanders took advantage. They brought him in. I love it for them. What Dan Quinn is going to be able to do with Louvu is really, really a fascinating concept to me. I think they're going to treat him almost like a Micah Parsons. Not saying he's Micah Parsons caliber player. However, he could blitz. He could drop back into coverage. He's an athletic guy. He can do the Micah Parsons stuff, just not to the level he can. Dan Quinn is going to use him like a Micah Parsons. He's not going to have the insane pass rush win rate that Micah Parsons has, but I absolutely think Louvu could play that role and play it really well. I think he's a very good linebacker that could play coverage really well, can blitz really well, can make tackles really well. Just a great player, very smart player. The fact he only costed $12 million, I mean, this is the best signing that happened in day one of free agency so far. And now, Brian Burns. He got traded. This isn't a grade for the trade. This is just for the contract. So maybe this is a little bit of cheating because he wasn't really a free agent. But it's my show. I get to make the rules. Brian Burns is a phenomenal edge rusher. And the Panthers didn't want to pay him the money that the Giants ended up paying him. And yes, that's a hefty contract, but I think he's worth every single penny. I don't think they overpaid him, but I don't think they got great value. I think that $30 million per year is kind of exactly what he should be making. Exactly what he should be making. So that high grade that you see right there, that's not because they got some absurd value here. They got that high grade because they brought in a great player that they needed. They needed a player of his caliber. Okay? At that position. They need, guys. I look at that defense, I don't see enough. Oh, wow, I'm scared of that guy. That's a player I'm worried about. Brian Burns is one of those guys. Okay? He isn't a Myles Garrett or a Micah Parsons or a TJ Watt, but he's in that next tier. Okay? He's in that next tier. Really, really impressive player. Gonna wreak havoc for the Giants. And like I said, the important thing is he plays one of those foundational positions. Saquon Barkley, they had to let him walk. I know Giants fans are really hurt to see him playing in Philadelphia. But if they paid a running back, they wouldn't be able to pay Burns. They wouldn't be able to pay Illuminor. They wouldn't be able to pay the offensive lineman. They need to be able to focus on building up the guys at the foundational positions. Brian Burns, like I said, is one of those guys. He is. So, the trade I liked, let me just start by saying that, but that's not part of this grade. The main reason I give them that grade is because they brought in a high caliber player to play a position that they really, really need a guy at. And their defense just lacks guys, bona fide guys. Burns will play that role for them. High caliber player. Big fan of this addition. And that's all for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want more of my content, check out the links down below. I have a podcast I've been doing twice a week. I post a lot on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And I mean a lot. With each of these signings, I have been retweeting them and giving my thoughts. So definitely check that out. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to leave a like, maybe even subscribe. And thank you.